Hello and welcome everyone. In our effort to help you begin your data science journey or take it to the next level, we are bringing to you the series of talks with industry experts and leading data scientists. Our guest in today's episode needs no introduction. He is the co-founder and CEO of Julia Computing, none other than Mr. B.Shah. A very warm welcome to the show, Viral, and thanks a lot for doing this.
Thank you, Ranjay. I'm excited to be here and speaking with you.
So to begin with, Viral, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how it all started?
Yeah, my background is in, I have a PhD in scientific computing from the University of California at Santa Barbara. And, that was sort of, I've always sort of believed in, in the power of computing and science as a way to sort of solve some of the world's large and hard problems. And that's what led me to do a PhD in scientific computing. That's what led me to my work on Julia, on CircuitScape, and on many things. But the underlying dominant thread has been that, with advances in science and with advances in computing, we can really solve some of the largest and hardest problems that we face. I was very lucky at some level to have my advisor John Gilbert, who trained me in the discipline of scientific computing, and Alan Edelman from MIT, and they just had sort of a wonderful set of colleagues along the way. And at some point we sort of, if I look at sort of Julia itself, right? So I started the Julia project in about 2009. With Alan Edelman, Stefan Karpinski, and Jeff Bizanson. And prior to that, the world of scientific computing was largely it looked like what we call the two-language problem, right? So you always had to write your code in, a high-level language like Python, R, or MATLAB, and then you have to sort of, rewrite it in C++ or Java in order to deploy it or scale it up. And as a result of that, you end up writing every program twice. And we started the Julia project with the with the hope that hey, what if we have a same language for high performance as well as productivity, so that the program that you write with the algorithm that you prototype can be deployed into your production environment as well, that can be scaled as well. And until then, it was not believed to be possible. It was largely believed almost like a law of physics that hey, you can either have performance or productivity, but not both. And, growing up as a computer scientist, as a computational scientist, that's how I had also always worked, right? I always worked in this sort of two-language situation. When we first released Julia in 2012, we believed that this early sort of promise of, hey, we can solve the two-language problem with Julia, not just for scientific computing, but in general. That idea resonated with a lot of people in the community, and we went from being sort of just the four of us working on Julia to being a public project. By the end of sort of 2012, we had over 100 contributors, open source contributors to Julia, and that number is almost close to 1,000 by now, 10 years down the line. And that's just Julia itself. In addition, there are almost 3,000 open source Julia packages. There's millions of Julia downloads taught in hundreds of universities. So it really sort of has, come together over the years. But I think the kernel was, we need something that is high performance and easy to use and can sort of, you don't need the experts to come in when you need to scale your problem to to 10,000 cores or to hundreds of GPUs.
Great. So tell me, why is it that you took up an uncommon path, so to speak, to work on something like a new programming language instead of, let's say, getting a corporate job?
That's a good point. Just like many things in life, this thing does not have an easy or a straight answer. But it is absolutely true that it was the uncommon path. It traces back all the way back to my, even when I was in, doing my undergraduate in Vasantdada Patil University, college in the University of Mumbai. I was always focused on solving sort of, large and hard problems. Back then, I was, I had the fortune of meeting two very well-known economists in India, B.Shah and Susan Thomas, who taught at the Indira Gandhi Institute in Mumbai. And through them I learned about sort of high performance systems and about how to write large parallel computing programs about economics and finance. And that's what ended up sort of being my final project in my college years. But it really sort of left me wanting more, right? I felt like I had only scratched the surface of the world of computational science at that point. And I felt that in order for me to, sort of, become good at it and sort of, dive deeper, a PhD was sort of the right way to go forward. So I luckily sort of had UC Santa Barbara had given me an acceptance, and that's why I just, it was a PhD with full funding, as we call it. So it was really sort of an offer that was hard to pass up on. Also, I would say that, when I graduated in 2001, the Indian technology industry was not what it is today, right? The number of opportunities were much fewer. And, it just felt right for me at that point as a young person that I had to follow the pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit of science, rather than immediately, take up a job. And luckily my circumstances made it possible for me to do so. My parents were very supporting, and I was able to sort of take the plunge. It was a plunge into the unknown, but it was, I was, I would say, very lucky to be able to take that risk at that point.
All right. Thanks, Viral. So my next question is also another why, but this time from our audience perspective, right? So tell me, if I am a newcomer, why is it that I should pick up something like Julia when there is already so much of focus on something like Python and R, right?
Yes, that's always a very good question, right? And I would remind you that even Python and R had something that came before them, right? So the people who ask why should I learn some new thing today there will always have been people asking why should I learn Python, right? 5 years ago that was the question. 10 years ago people were asking why should I learn R, and 20 years ago they were asking why should I learn Java, right? So at some level, all of these, if you look at these are increasing levels of abstraction, right? That Python does not have the performance of Julia, R does not have the performance of Julia, though they both have the ease of use. Java has the performance but not the ease of use, or C++ has the performance, not the ease of use. So if Julia is solving this two language problem and giving you this higher level of abstraction, it is making you a more powerful programmer. So if you do not learn, and this is not just about Julia, right? This is about any new technology, right? You can always say, look, all technologies, every programming language is Turing complete. I can do everything in assembly or C. Why do I even need to learn anything new, right? Everything can be done in any language. But as a programmer, you become, you have more powerful tools, when you learn some of the newer languages, the newer technologies that come up. So it is, I would say, almost at your own peril that you should ignore them. Yeah, you don't have to jump on every new shiny thing that comes up, because, there is a certain rate at which you can learn and assimilate and make something new part of your life and your thinking. But at the same time, if you completely ignore it, it's going to hurt you, right? Because there will be others who will master new things, new technologies, and they will just be much more powerful programmers, be able to build more complex systems, implement new algorithms that you simply cannot, right? If you simply have to write, 10x or 100x the amount of code in C++, to get the same level of performance as Julia, I mean, you're just going to be at, you're going to be behind compared to someone else, right? And finally, our goal is not to write programs all day, right? Our goal is to solve problems. Our goal is to, move humanity forward. Our goal is to, new scientific breakthroughs, or, finding new insights in data that lead to better outcomes for us as a society, and all of these things, right? Writing the program is just a means to an end, and to the extent that you can do the work faster and focus your time on thinking about the harder problems and solving those, you're better off. And that's why they should learn Julia. Now, the answer may not be Julia. Maybe if you're a systems programmer, maybe you want to learn Rust. If you're you're building high performance distributed systems, maybe you want to learn Go, right? But if you're a data scientist, if you're, working with any scientific phenomena, if you're working with anything that has to do with new age algorithms, with all the fancy things that are going on in the world around us, in the world of mathematics, then I think Julia is the next natural step in terms of helping you become a better programmer or a better data scientist.
Right. Thanks, Viral. So that brings me to my next question. That is, if any of the newcomers want to start learning Julia from the scratch and on their own, what would be your advice to them and how should they go about it? I know there's already a very thriving community around Julia that's present, but are there any other courses, any other books or anything at all that you want to call out and advise our viewers on how to get started learning Julia on their own?
So the Julia community is an incredibly welcoming community, and the answers to all of the questions are yes, right? So for example, a lot of people just think that the Julia community is too small because, I haven't heard about it enough in my college. My professors haven't taught it enough to me. The people who are interviewing me for a job haven't asked me for it yet. I don't have to fill out a Julia exam, to get a job or in any competitive programming, or if I go on Hacker Earth or Hacker Rank, right? So if people get the feeling that, this is too new, it's maybe, it's still 5 years away, and so on and so forth. But what you miss is, by the time it becomes mainstream, everyone's going to be doing it, right? Right now, you're going to be, at the beginning of something that is transforming the world of programming and data science. That said, there are already 500,000 Julia programmers worldwide. Julia Computing, which is the company that I run, already, we have, hundreds of thousands of Julia programmers connected with us who downloaded Julia Pro, use Julia Box or some of our products. So when I say that there are hundreds of thousands of programmers out there, I actually sort of have seen these, numbers out there, directly. We have a beautiful community on Discourse and Slack. Thousands of users plugged into these communities. And it's a very welcoming community. That's, we've been very focused on diversity and inclusion from the very early days in the Julia community. So we take it very seriously to have a welcoming community, to allow, to not have sort of negative voices, take over the community and be a deterrent for someone joining and learning. Newcomers are often welcomed, although of course you should, read the manual and read the documentation and hit Google before you ask a question. But we have some phenomenal community properties out there in the Julia community. Now, in terms of books, there's a list of books that's on the Julia website. If you go to the learning section, you'll see a list of books from which you can learn Julia. O'Reilly actually has a book called Think Julia. I think it's called Think Julia, and there is an Indian edition version, so it is available actually at a very reasonable price in India as well. In addition, if you go to JuliaCon2020.com, there are a bunch of free Julia courses starting from Introduction to Julia, Machine Learning in Julia, Parallel Computing in Julia, how to do data manipulation in Julia, all the basic things available for free. So you can go, these are the best courses taught by the core Julia developers and professors who have written Julia itself. So you can just go and learn this for free, at JuliaCon2020.com. So there's all of this, and in addition to this, I think another major thing in the community that we do is the Google Summer of Code. So Julia participates in the Google Summer of Code every year, and we get over 50 to, I think this year might have been closer to 100 registrations, and we try to accommodate all the high quality applicants that we can, as long as there are mentors and the quality of applications is good. But I would say that over half of the students we choose every year come from Indian universities, and these are just some of the most amazing students that we've seen, and many of them go on to become long-term contributors to Julia itself, and get plugged into research groups and all kinds of interesting things going forward. So there really is a huge amount of upswell in terms of for someone who's interested in learning Julia, there are many on-ramps. If you want documentation, there is a beautiful manual. If you want videos, we have Julia Academy. If you want books, there is a whole series of books. If you want to learn it at the university, well, you have to be at a university where they teach it. But really, there is a huge amount of material out there.
That's awesome. And for everyone in the audience, I will try to provide all these links down below in the description. So if you want to go and check all of these resources out that Viral just pointed out, you can check the description below in this video. So Viral, we are almost towards the end of our part 1 of this fantastic episode. Why don't you throw some light on the JuliaCon 2020 that's coming up at the end of this month? Why don't you tell our audience a little more about that?
That's right. So JuliaCon, it's JuliaCon.org is where it's all happening. It's our annual conference this year. Due to the pandemic, we were supposed to have this conference in Lisbon this year, but that was obviously not possible. So we decided to make it online, and in order to make it inclusive and reach the maximum number of people, we made it free as well. So we have a huge number of people who have signed up for JuliaCon already. But I would urge each and every one of your viewers and ask all their friends, please sign up. It's an amazing opportunity to interact with the Julia community. It's Wednesday through Friday, July 29th to 31st. But even before the conference starts, there are free workshops. There are 10 free workshops this year that we are holding. In fact, those will be starting on Saturday of this week. And these are just very well taught workshops. So if you don't know anything about Julia, you should be able to come to the workshop, learn Julia itself, and then be able to participate in the conference. There are over 100 talks that we have lined up, some amazing keynotes. But the most important thing is that it is free this year, and you can participate with everyone. Just sign up at JuliaCon.org.
So I have already gone ahead and registered myself for the event.
Fantastic.
And I request all of the audience watching this to go ahead and register themselves for JuliaCon 2020, because I truly believe that's going to be a great event and it will help take your data science journey to the next level. So I'll want to see you all in JuliaCon 2020. And with that, we have come to the conclusion of the part 1 of this great episode. But hang on, keep watching this space for the second part of this episode, where we ask Viral some more questions about your data science journey and taking it to the next level. And in the meantime, if you feel that this content is helping your data science journey in any way, then please like this, share with your fellow colleagues who also want to start their data science journey, and please subscribe to the channel. This helps and motivates us to bring in more meaningful and useful content for you in the future episodes. Thanks a lot. Keep watching.